the What It Takes Radio Company once again brings you into the impact zone. That's right, the impact zone. And today I'm going to talk about the fact that this has been my burning bush birthday. My burning bush birthday. And then we'll segue into something like this. I'm sorry, but if you're not streaming, you're just dreaming that you might be lucky enough to be successful in the business, marketing, and marketplace today. 15 minutes to tell you the story for your thought and consideration from the Impact Zone. Here we go, and we're back finally online on the air. Hi, this is Stan, the Radio Man, and we're here on a Thursday morning, flowing into the afternoon, and you see right there that we are in the impact zone. Remember, we are now discovering that we're going to be living a zoned life. There are 4 or 5 zones, maybe 6, and you're going to have to find ways to make a living and make a life by discovering how each of the zones can work for you and perhaps provide opportunities for you, because everything is changing. Now, they've really changed a lot for me in at least one sense. I am now officially an OOLD. OOLD. Now, what is that? I am officially old. I celebrated my burning bush birthday on Tuesday. And it was just a very quiet celebration, because when you're as old as the burning bush birthday, you're very lucky to be alive. And so you primarily spend your time not partying too much, but perhaps celebrating your good grace and good fortune. So that's right. I am that old. I'm officially old. And most of you probably have figured out how old I am. I still have a lot of energy for a man my age and stage, and a lot of ambition and a lot of aspiration, and I still get into a lot of trouble because of all of that from time to time. But I do have a number of things that are going right for me, and so I'm very grateful for that. Now, what happened, my last podcast was my story about Stanley Jones, and that was Sunday night. And of course, then we moved into Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and 2 or 3 things happened. Well, first of all, the news was primarily totally taken up by the talk of the bombing of Iran. And I oftentimes learned that, particularly when I was in broadcasting, the regular old-fashioned radio broadcasting, is that oftentimes, no matter what, if the news cycle was full of big stuff, your program oftentimes just got ignored. I mean, you were on the air and you were doing your deal, but the audience was someplace else. Now, they may have been even listening, but they weren't paying attention to you because they were paying attention to something else. Well, that gave me an opportunity. First of all, I used Tuesday to put together a birthday present for me. And that is, after about 4.5 and 5 years of building the Christian Entrepreneur Network, I think we've gone through a lot of issues, but we've learned a lot, done a lot, and we put together the second book. And we have learned how to do that. And in effect, that's part of the lesson that's coming for today. And we are simply calling it How to Be a World-Class Jesus Entrepreneur, because entrepreneurship is the deal going forward. That is the deal. Now, so we'll be telling you more about that in other times. But here's what I really wanted to get through, because something else came across And it's one of those things that, you know, no one pays attention to. But it's, as I often say, because my mentor told me, he said, Stan, if it's in the news, it's probably not really news. And oftentimes the real news never makes the news. And we were oftentimes taught to say, not news, news, in the news. That's broadcasting lingo, I guess. All right, here's what it's been discovered. Now, of course, many of you will know, because I am so old, that I remember the old days of old-fashioned AM radio. That's about all there was. Now, there were stations that were on FM, frequency modulation, but hardly anybody ever listened to FM. And that obviously changed. Now, do you know why it went from AM to FM? What's the difference? Well, there's a big story behind that. But what it was, that in effect, because of the FM, there was the ability to have greater quality of sound. And there's a reason for that. Plus, they operated on a frequency that was so high that lightning and static didn't interfere with the reception, as was oftentimes the case with standard AM radio. Then, of course, AM was dominant, then FM came up, and then FM became incredibly dominant because also they figured out how to do radio in stereo. And of course, now FM is the predominant radio means. However, both FM and AM are having some difficulty. Now, at my age and stage, I also remember you could usually tell who was fortunate enough to have a television. Not many televisions. You know, in the 50s and early 60s, you had a television, and they cost a lot of money. And however, what was oftentimes true, that unless you were very close to the station, where I lived was about 60 miles from Chicago, and the nearest television stations were in Chicago. Now, because they broadcast on high FM frequencies, in effect, the radio wave did not go around, it went straight. And that meant that it's what was called line of sight, that you actually had to be able to see where the tower was, where the transmitter was, or you probably wouldn't get the reception. And so the houses had TV antennas, and they were oftentimes on 10, 20, 30-foot poles sticking up out of the ceiling. And because of that, they had to have guy wires, to hold them up. And they had to be built strong because any strong wind could take them down. But if you wanted to have a television, and if it worked, it was because you had a TV antenna. Obviously, things have changed incredibly. Well, they've also changed remarkably just now. Now, I've been saying for some time that I think that what's going to happen is that more and more that traditional broadcasting, which the big companies have the power and the energy and the transmitters to do, all of that is going very differently. And that podcasting and digital radio and television and media will begin to take over. Well, here's something that just happened. Here's what, according to Nielsen, dropped the latest gauge this week, showing that for the first time, streaming has overtaken the combined share of broadcast and cable TV in the United States. And that's why I say, if you're not streaming, you're dreaming that things will go better for you in the communication business, and they're not. Supposedly, this is the case. 44%, 44.8% of all US TV viewing is not cable. It is not broadcast. It is streaming. Broadcast and cable are 44.2%. Now, TV, like newspapers before it, are now mostly consumed digitally. And that gap between streaming and broadcast will only get wider and wider. That's the deal. If you're not streaming, if you're not learning how to get your message out using the digital streaming media, you are in trouble. Dead tree marketing, all of that paper, as we oftentimes say, will become less and less effective. I looked at I was throwing some stuff away because as I go on my morning walk, I always make a point that if there's paper or anything I find on my morning walk, I pick it up. Always pick up something to help, just a little bit. So I do that. So I picked it up and I went to the garbage thing that is right by where all the mailboxes are for our apartment complex. And guess what I found? What I always find is that scads of the direct mail, the brochures, where were they? They were in the garbage pail. So more and more of both broadcasting and television and any means of communication will go to the digital streaming media. I happen to notice, because I'm always up early, that what used to be when I was a child and I delivered newspapers, almost every house on my route took the paper. Yeah, almost. One didn't, but that was strange. Every house I had to deliver a newspaper to. The old plop, plop, plop. In the apartment complex where I now live, there is, it used to be paper boys and then paper girls, but now it's all adults. And there's just one person in the entire complex who has the newspaper delivered to their apartment. The world is changing. That's just simply a way for me to offer both you and me some wisdom. First of all, we are going to have to come to grips with the fact that that is the means of communication. Secondly, we're going to have to figure out how we are going to deal with that in terms of our life and our business. Because all around that circle of digital media is now the nemesis and the genius of artificial intelligence, which, by the way, has proved to me to be very, very helpful, incredibly so. It will help me make more money. But you know what? Because that's true for me, a lot of people are not going to make more money because they happen to be in other forms of communication, other forms of work that are going to suffer because of the advent of artificial intelligence. Are we on the right side? Well, hopefully, this has been helpful to you. I hope it's encouraging to you. But remember, if you're not streaming, you're just dreaming. And my job in life right now, as a long time business performance coach and as a 45-year broadcaster, one of the first persons to use the new podcasting medium, is there are ways that no matter what your business or career is, as I say, you're going to have to learn how to be in front of the camera and behind the microphone. You're going to have to learn how to communicate using this new modern mass marketing medium that is combined with the artificial creation of intelligence. But what it does, it simply creates incredible curated information that is amazing. And I can start listing now all of the people who are struggling, are going to struggle because, for instance, I was in the financial services many years as a coach. Um, People don't need insurance agents to get insurance in financial services anymore. Very wonderful occupation, very wonderful business. Uh, Hundreds, thousands of good people made good livings. But that is changing. That is changing. Hey, please reach out to me. I speak, I teach, I consult, I coach. But most of all, I'm here to get you on the radio, the modern radio. Radio simply means radiated electronic communication. And you're going to have to learn how to do it, use it, and take advantage of it. Or it will take advantage of you. All the best. Blessings to you. I look forward to seeing how I can help you. Please reach out to me at stan@witradio, whaittakesradio.net, stan@witradio.net. We'll be back because of all of the flexibility I have. I will be doing a number of radio and television programs on a variety of platforms. In effect, it's an opportunity that everybody has and everybody can take advantage of. But we all have to be aware that the world has changed, been transformed in many ways. I look forward to the opportunity to helping you thrive as well as survive in this new world of new media. It can happen. Best and blessings. All will be well. Bye for now.